Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the Doomed Productions podcast. This is something a little different, and we're excited to try this format out and just kind of see where it takes us, what kind of stuff we talk about. So thank you for joining us on this crazy ride. My name is Ethan. If you don't know me, I'm a cinematographer generally, but also a director for Doomed Productions, and I'm joined with...
I am Jordan Ross. Did you say your last name?
I don't know if I did.
I can't remember. And I'm going to feel like a fool now if I'm the only one who said his last name.
Well, I'm Ethan Hansen, if anyone's curious.
I'm Jordan. I write, I direct, I edit.
We do everything.
Yeah, if you don't know who we are, Doom Productions, we make movies and we make videos about movies and making movies. So click around on our channel and you can find some great playlists of our work, both educational and narrative and our feature films. Wise. And so now we're starting a podcast because
that's what you do in the 21st century.
Yeah, I guess they used to start rock and roll bands. Now all these young kids are starting podcasts. Yeah. It's like the same thing.
I think we're just ahead of the curve. You know, not many people have podcasts right now. So
yeah.
It's kind of nice.
This is a niche little thing. No one's heard of a podcast. Yes. Yeah. I guess we're doing this for a few reasons. Mm-hmm. One is we want people to get to know us better. Our videos feel very short, I think. Mm-hmm. It's not a lot of time for people to get to know us unless they watch all of our stuff. So this seems like a nice way for us to get to know, or people to get to know us.
Yeah.
And the other reason, it's nice to just have a long-form discussion-based video or podcast or audio thing to put up on our channel.
Yeah.
It's easier to edit generally, and it's fun to do, fun to make.
Yeah, I think one of the other things, just piggybacking off that, you know, a lot of our videos are shorter, so there's some topics we just can't feel like we can discuss and do justice if we're not like pouring a lot of time in. Like some discussions are more nuanced than you can do in a 5-minute, you know, pithy, quick YouTube video that's gonna, you know, it just doesn't do it justice. So hopefully we can have some of those discussions here where we can kind of break down ideas that we don't feel like you can just do as easily on a YouTube video.
And also, we love movies. And when we make these videos for YouTube, we talk about making movies. We don't really talk about movies we enjoy that much. So we wanted a place where we could talk about just movies kind of, and just, you know, do things that other filmmakers like to do, which is, you know, just talk about movies and stuff we like, stuff we've seen and whatnot. Because I feel like, we rarely talk about movies we like in depth ever. I think maybe the last time was House or Wonder Woman 84 or something, which is last year.
We did a couple of early movie reviews back when we were still kind of figuring out what we wanted our channel to be. So we were kind of trying everything.
Yeah.
And movie reviews were in that for a hot minute.
Yeah.
We just don't discuss movies like in the pop culture sphere as much.
Yeah, and so every time we get together to meet, we always sidetracked for probably get 30 minutes to an hour talking about movies, but might as well put a microphone there and have people enjoy it with us.
Yeah,
hopefully.
We have 2 rules in our meetings, which is you can always interrupt for Star Wars and Zack Snyder.
Yes.
Those are our favorite things to talk about. So.
Yes.
But we'll explore much more than just that here. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Anyone worried about those being the only things?
It is a good place to start, though.
Oh, absolutely. There's never...
I mean, semi-transition into our topic of the day, which is pretty much what's our taste in stuff.
Oh, yeah.
What do we like? What do we enjoy watching? What kinds of movies do we enjoy and all that? Star Wars we're big fans of.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously. Zack Snyder...
Just
for sure. Whole. Just as a whole, him.
The man, the movies, all of it.
His cut, you know, all that stuff. In terms of like just the two of us, I think, what other movies are we into?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty well-rounded in our tastes and we can appreciate most style of movie. I mean, as filmmakers, we consider ourselves genre filmmakers, and what that kind of just means is, you know, we're into like the broader topics of like sci-fi, like action, adventure, horror, all of it, comedy. We like those kind of styles. We're not as big into like the breakdown of like character as much.
Well, breakdown within genre, but not
genre. It's yeah.
Okay, this is a hot take.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, we're only 5 minutes into this thing. Hot take. Okay, hot take. This is no offense to anyone. This is my personal preference. I really do not care for movies where it's just people sitting and talking.
Mm-hmm.
That to me, while it can be engaging, while the dialogue can be like thrilling and really interesting and well written, to me, I don't care for that. That's not for me. Like, it's like if you don't like ramen noodles, like the Japanese soup or whatever.
Yeah.
Like if that's just not your thing, you can appreciate a good ramen every now and then, but you're not going to go out of your way to across town to find a really good ramen shop, I don't think.
Yeah.
That sums it up to me. There's a couple movies that have been really well done where it's just like people talking and it's engaging. But for me, movies are like movement, it's action, it's motion. Like, it's called motion picture for a reason. And in genre, and there's a lot of symbolism you can put in genre films that you just can't in just people sitting and talking. Yeah. So no offense, because we know people who like that stuff, and that's your taste. That's cool. Like, I'm not saying no one should. I'm happy those movies exist and there's a place for them. But for me, and I think you too, like, I'd rather film a movie like, an action movie or whatever, or a horror movie, than two people just sitting in a room talking.
That being said, thank you for listening to our audio podcast of two people sitting in a room talking. Yeah. Anyways, what was I saying?
We were just talking about our taste.
Yeah,
genre. We're into genre.
I mean, we love genre. That's kind of like encapsulates us pretty well because obviously us as two individuals have slightly different tastes. I think we're pretty similar in a lot of ways, or at least we can appreciate the same rough things. But for me, I'm just going to jump into some of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
I do not have a favorite movie. Every time that question comes up, it stresses me out and I panic, and my answer is always different. But some of like my favorite movies, looking back, I'm a big fan of, just David Lynch as a whole. His style is really great. I love specific movie. It's not David Lynch. Then is oh my gosh, my brain's Rebel Without a Cause.
Oh yeah,
I'm a really big fan of Rebel Without a Cause. That was a movie I saw in film school, and I really loved it. My brief time in film school. Okay.
That's a movie. Not to interrupt.
No, go for it.
That's a movie where I saw that also in film school, and I walked into class 5 minutes late or whatever, and the movie had already started.
I did the same thing.
And it was the only thing I had missed was the opening credits with him laying down or whatever. And it starts off in the police scene, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, oh my gosh, they're talking about this crazy night. I can't wait to go home and rewatch the beginning of this movie to see this crazy thing that happened. But it doesn't happen, which is this awesome kind of like example of like start in the middle of action. Like good movies will start in the middle of action. They won't tell you everything. They'll just start and like you can fill in the blanks. So
yeah. No, I had the same experience. I came in right as he's laying on the ground and the sirens are coming in and like the credits had just stopped.
Yeah.
So I was like, I had no point of reference for where I was, and I was like, oh my goodness, what happened? This is insane. And then same experience. I watched it, I was like, oh, that was just the beginning of the movie.
I wasn't disappointed that there wasn't more, but
no, honestly, I was impressed.
Yeah,
after that, I was like, dang.
I was like, well, I actually saw all that movie.
Yeah. But I really love Rebel Without a Cause, and I come back to it every couple of years and rewatch it. I'm looking at my letterbox, and like the top two things on there are Batman vs Superman and Revenge of the Sith. So it's like, dang, we already covered Zack Snyder and Star Wars. I'm a bit of an A24 fan, specifically their horror and like The Lighthouse, Midsummer, Hereditary. All of those are phenomenal. Saw The Green Knight this year and loved it. That felt very much like an Us movie.
Yeah.
Just in like in there, and what I mean by that is like we love to use color in our movies. We love shifting color. We don't really have a lot of light continuity. Like we'll change the color of a light between shots because we just feel like it looks better or fits the theme or the tone. And The Green Knight has a lot of that kind of play that we like to do on the technical side. And the story is super engaging too. And that kind of gives a taste, I guess, of what I'm into.
Yeah.
I've kind of recently have kind of gone back in time a bit and watched some older movies. You introduced me to Night of the Hunter.
Yes.
I always want to say Night of the Huntsman, but it's
Night of the Hunter. Yeah.
Which
It's
is
one of my favorites.
I know.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No,
I won't
that's
go
fine.
into it.
No,
I'll
that's
save
all
it for
good.
you. But that stuff like that, and then like Wizard of Oz was like a childhood movie that I kind of came back to recently, and it's been like, just kind of cool to watch.
Yeah.
Because there's something about that era of filmmaking that's just really cool to revisit every now and again.
Yeah.
An appreciation for it.
Yeah.
What about you?
For me, I think where our tastes differ, I mean, because I think what we really love is like blockbuster, crazy, I guess,
Push the limits of cinema.
push the limits. I mean, I guess Star Wars and Zack Snyder sum it up pretty well, but also like Green Knight thrown in there, a little bit of Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
we love Lord of the Rings.
How did I miss it?
We are Hobbit fans of those movies.
Yeah, we
Probably the only Tolkien fans who enjoy both the book and the movies.
they accomplish different things. It's all good.
Yep. So we like that kind of blockbuster, the kind of George Lucas, Peter Jackson, James Cameron kind of stuff.
I actually have some beef with James Cameron. We'll get into that another time.
Ooh. Did he push you down a flight of stairs?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh geez, my phone's going off. But I think where I think I kind of are, you can stop me if I'm wrong, where our taste kind of diverges, because I studied experimental film a whole bunch in college. And so that's really my kind of stuff. So I watched filmmakers like, I used to like have a set list of movies that were my favorite, but as I've kind of thought about it recently, actually, I've kind of reevaluated that list. And now I just say what my favorite movies are like all of Maya Deren's work.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So like At Land, Ritual and Transfigured in Time, Meshes in the Afternoon, Witch's Cradle, which I think was technically unfinished, but I still love how it was put together. That to me kind of, I really like movies where it shows an experience that's unique to movies. Like there's no way you could do Meshes of the Afternoon as a book or a poem or a comic book or a painting, right? I think it creates an experience that's totally unique to what movies are and what cinema is. Narrative isn't as important to me as long as the experience is kind of first and foremost.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at. So I'm really a huge fan of like Maya Deren, George Kuchar. He's kind of like, think of him as like a vlogger before vlogging was a thing. Really interesting guy and filmmaker. What's his name? Jonas Mekas, of course, and Stan Brakhage. And these are very like basic experimental film people. Like I'm sure there's hardcore experimental film fans out there who are like, those are such basic choices, but it's like, it's true. I like them. And experimental movies aren't just not as popular. So I'm always on the lookout for more kind of crazy, surreal stuff like that. And so for me, where I think I'm a huge fan of that kind of stuff. But also what I tell people is just, I like everything.
Yeah.
I like what I like, and I try to find value in everything. And that might not be the most I might not be the most interesting person to talk to in terms of like, oh, I want someone who's really unique and crazy or whatever. But I could talk to anyone about their movie taste and like follow along, I feel like. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, and I think that's the great thing. And I want to go into more experimental. I mean, we're in Portland.
Yeah.
And we've been in the film like festival scene here for a bit. We're not as active now just during COVID, but you see a lot of experimental work, and it's really cool to kind of see the spectrum. And there's some stuff that's really out there, and then there's some stuff that's less so. And it's kind of fun just to be in that space, and I want to give it its time at some point. I mean, I've made an experimental horror film, so. I have an appreciation, and I wanna like, okay, I've like thrown my hat into the ring for a little bit. Now I want to like, okay, I want to like know what I'm doing, or like kind of have that appreciation for other filmmakers who've done that before I probably throw myself back in again.
Yeah. Yeah. I love experimental movies so much. It definitely that was something when I took a couple of experimental classes in film school. That was something that really blew me away and kind of changed my perspective of what movies could be and how they worked. But I think if you were to, I mean, really, first and foremost, like again, just reiterating, like the experience is very important to me as a movie. So if someone like is like, oh, but the writing was this, or but oh, the acting was this or whatever. I don't kind of I mean I think there's definitely film fans out there who judge a movie on one thing, and it's like it must be this kind of narrative. Must show this with the characters and must do this, this, and this, that. And I don't like that's cool and everything, and that's people's prerogative. But for me, what I do is like I look at what's the experience of the movie, and like what's the experience it's trying to do, and did it do that for me? I always fumble with examples, but like I guess a good one for I mean you agree, I know you agree with this, the prequels. We love the Star Wars prequels.
That's where my mind goes first every time. Yeah,
because people will criticize the dialogue, the writing, the execution of the story, where I can kind of look at kind of what George Lucas was trying to do with those movies, and I think he was fairly successful, and I think he conveyed the things he wanted to convey effectively to me, and I know to a lot of other people. And so like people say the writing, for instance, like as a criticism, to me, I don't think the writing is like the writing is supposed to sound kind of direct, lacking any subtext. That's how all of the Star Wars movies that George Lucas directed, those are all of his, that's how all the dialogue is very direct, no subtext, surface level. It's not supposed to be this artsy fartsy, perfect screenplay, poetry, writing. I mean, it's flowery at times, but it's not going for Shakespeare, or even like someone like, what's his name? Who's the screenwriter? Aaron Sorkin. Yeah. It's not an Aaron Sorkin movie, and people will judge it saying the dialogue's bad, and it's like it's not bad, but it has a certain effect on us because it sounds unnatural. It sounds very direct. It's kind of, I don't want to say archaic because that's not the right word, but it's kind of like old school in terms of like film serials, and that seemed to be George Lucas's intent. And so his experience he wanted to give you was this kind of serial episodic adventure series. Of course, that's a very stripped down version of, I mean, there's a lot more to Star Wars, but to me, that's why I can look past the dialogue and kind of really engage with the movies. Because I look at the movies for what they are and the intent of the filmmaker rather than what I wish they would have been or something else. So I guess that's a good example, more or less.
Yeah. And I think that you and I are definitely on this side of, generally on the side of the filmmaker. Like we definitely, I mean, as filmmakers, we have that kind of view of like how we want our work to be viewed. And we kind of, I think we try and give that same level of, a hand, not a handout, but like, we view it from that, oh gosh, start over. We view it from that same way, or view the other art directors from the same way of what's their intent. And we like look for that. As opposed to what did we want as audience members first. Because if you're making a movie, sure, you're making it for your audience and you're making it to be viewed generally. I think all of us want our movies to be seen, but at a certain point, like, are you making the movie your audience wants or the movie you want? And it takes a lot of guts to make the movie that you want to make and put it out there for other people to see. And so, yeah, when we're watching stuff like Star Wars, like that's important to us to see, like, oh yeah, is George making the movie he wants, and what's his intent? What's his intent? Yeah. What's he trying to convey? And yeah, and I think we both agree he's successful in that. Whether or not the movies that Star Wars fans want, it's a different story. But there's also something to be said about how the prequels have come around the last couple of years of people really loving them and seeing that. I think that's really cool. Yeah. Well, it's also like I like no two movies are the same. And I feel like if you go into a movie saying, okay, I want to know
I want to know all these characters' flaws. I want to know what defines them. I want to know, I want to see their weaknesses, their strength, their triumph. I want to see a perfect 3-act structure. I want it to be like, I want it to introduce the main character by a certain point of time. I want it to, those are just check boxes on what makes a movie by committee, I think.
Yeah.
If a movie happens to do that and it's really awesome, that's really cool. But I don't think all movies need to fit into a certain box. I mean, I bet you there's people out there who will look at something like Kurosawa, like a Seven Samurai, and be like, too long, too slow, too boring, not enough, cool choreographed action. And it's like, well, you're missing the point of the movie.
Yeah.
Like I think that's how we look at movies again. Like, what is the movie? Not what do I want the movie to be?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just going to make yourself miserable trying to like force all movies into the same box.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, there's no point in showing up to a horror movie, like something like Halloween, or like It Follows, or a slasher movie, and being like, oh my gosh, why is it so violent? I don't like violent movies. It's like, well, maybe you shouldn't go to a slasher horror movie. Maybe you should look at the movie from like the perspective of like it trying to be a horror movie or whatever. Yeah. I don't know how we got on that tangent.
I don't really remember either.
But
we went down the rabbit hole.
We like movies. Lots of movies. What are other movies? Because you said Eraserhead, and what else?
Well, I just said David Lynch as a whole. Actually, the first David Lynch movie I ever saw was Elephant Man when I was younger.
Oh, you haven't seen Eraserhead yet?
No, I've never seen Eraserhead.
I was thinking
I'm
Eraserhead.
a sham David Lynch fan. Big Twin Peaks guy though. Yeah, I remember seeing Blue Velvet for the first time in film school. That was in that class. It was like a film studies that focused on directors specifically, I'm pretty sure. And we show up. We had 2 weeks left of class, but we had our final due that day. It was like an essay. I'd done it on Stanley Kubrick or something. And so I turned that in, and our teacher sets us down. It's like, all right, I'm about to play you guys a movie. This is your real final. And he plays us Blue Velvet. It's like, you got to pick a topic to write about within Blue Velvet. And he's like, all right, go. Till your last day of class to do this. And I was so caught off guard by that movie that I genuinely hated Blue Velvet for a while.
That's funny.
I have not gone back to rewatch it yet, but I really want to. But yeah, it just caught me so off guard. So I have a lot of conflicting feelings about the movie, but I really feel like I'm going to go back to that movie and appreciate it a whole lot more now that I've had that Band-Aid ripped off. But yeah,
what did you write about?
I think I wrote about color in it.
How fitting.
I know.
For us.
I think I wrote about the use of different colors throughout the movie. I couldn't tell you more than that, but yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. I was like, shoot, I don't know what else to think. I was just so caught off guard. I was like, shoot, what do I write about in this movie?
Well, I had a similar experience with Night of the Hunter.
Yeah.
Right. I think you know this. I think I might have told this on this channel before, but when I saw Night of the Hunter, there was a lot of things in the movie that felt very dated to me, and the drama and the story didn't land. I thought it was really outdated. I thought some of the acting wasn't as strong. I thought some of the lines were a little bit weird, and I just didn't jive with the movie. And so I was like, that was the dumbest movie I've ever seen. I hated it. And then I think I saw it later because there was a double feature in Portland where it was what was it? It was a movie, and it was Night of the Hunter. I can't remember what it was playing with. I have it written down somewhere, but I saw it with that because I wanted to see the other movie, and I was like, I might as well see Night of the Hunter. And then it grew on me a little bit more, and then I think I saw it another time. I think I might have rented it, or I might have caught it on TV or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I really like this movie now. And I was coming at it from a very modern, our modern sensibilities, acting should be like this. The dialogue should be like that. This blocking should be like this. And instead I wasn't looking at it, this movie is shot from a child's point of view. This movie is supposed to have this poetry with some of the lines to it. And, I just wasn't engaging with the movie on its terms. I was like being like, oh, this isn't like modern movies or whatever. And I just kind of dismissed it. But I'm so glad that I rewatched it and I really enjoyed it.
Well, it's so fun going into a movie to surprise yourself on what your expectation is and like not holding a movie to anything. And I think in the last couple of years, like I've really felt that because I mean, you grow up and you see movies and you kind of have the pop culture mentality going in or the mainstream thought process of movies, just general audience. But then once you kind of start moving away from that, because we're breaking away from the mainstream. It's so cool of us now. But just being able to like go into a movie and not have an agenda of what you want it to be and be surprised by it. I think that's just such a great way to see movies and you can just enjoy them. You're not like stuck expecting a movie and always being disappointed or like wishing it was something else. Like I saw a movie last night that like there are parts of it I was like, oh, I would change this, oh, I would change that. But at the end of the day, I also like, I just really enjoyed it. It was just a fun movie. It was something different. I didn't really have any expectations going in, and it was just a good time. So, and I think that's just a great way to be. I don't have to go in like and leave the movie like, oh, it should have been this.
So, I mean, all that's to say, like, I think we've said this before. You're never going to hear us publicly criticizing or bashing a movie. I don't think.
No.
Because one, we're filmmakers. We want to keep it professional because we do consider them our colleagues. I mean, like someone like Peter Jackson or Zack Snyder, they are like way above our pay grade by millions of dollars probably. But like as a filmmaker, you know, that's something special. Like if I meet another filmmaker, regardless of where you are, it's like, hey, we like the same thing, and that's awesome. So I want to give them that respect. So I think it's kind of rude to crap on someone's movie or criticize a movie. But also, we just look for the positives. So, I mean, we've been with each other long enough where we can like, so kind of what we personally do, if we're talking with someone and they bring up a movie that I do not like or that you do not like, we'll, instead of being like, I didn't really like that movie, we'll be like, we'll come at it from like, oh, well, I like this part of the movie. I like the humor at this part. I like the joke. I like the camera, and kind of dissect what we did like. And we've been with each other long enough, well, as friends, that I can see when Ethan is like just like if I know he doesn't like a movie, I can see when that like kind of turns on and he's like, yeah, and he's just kind of saying stuff like to be positive and everything.
It's hard sometimes too, because sometimes you genuinely like don't like it, but it's like again, it's a respect thing and it's hard.
It's a well, it's like a good way to watch a movie because like dissecting like, okay, what did work for you?
Yeah.
And like that will help you inform you on like what doesn't work for you in a movie too. And so like, again, like we've definitely have times where we're hanging out with people and they're like, oh, I love this. And it's like, well, I love the cinematography and that was really good.
Yeah.
And we try to genuinely mean it too. Like, cause it's like,
well, it helps if you're on the other side of that. Like think about all the times you love a movie and someone is just absolutely bagging on it.
And then
it's like, man, like it sucks to be in that position. So why would I want to put someone else in that of like, oh, you like that movie? Like, start ripping it apart? That's,
like, if you bring up a movie, like, this has happened a few times, especially in film school. It's like, you bring up a movie, you're like, oh, man, I love this movie. And someone's like, yeah, that movie sucked. Or like, oh, I couldn't stand that movie.
Well, especially as fans of blockbusters in film school, that's a hard place to be because, like, I'd go to film school after just seeing, like, the Transformers movie the night before. And, like, if you try, you can't bring that up in class. You're going to get laughed out of the room.
No. But it's, again, like, I don't know. Everyone's like, I don't know. Yeah. There's somewhat of a sheep herd mentality, I think, when it comes to film fans. And it's like everybody's like that. Groups of people get together. They kind of just want to think alike in certain ways when it comes to movie making or movies they enjoy or like art or anything like that. So I get it. Like, I get why that there's certain like biases against things or like prejudices against blockbusters or whatever. But you know, I again, we don't have a problem with that stuff. We enjoy it. Super, super fun for us. So I will still take a dumb action movie over a talking people movie, I think, most days. I think for me, personally, that's my taste.
But hey, if you can find us something that changes our mind,
yes,
that'd be pretty cool.
Well, it's like, and it's not like I am, again, you say stuff and people assume that you're like this dumb, bro jock or whatever, and it's like I've seen a lot of like all sorts of movies, because in film school that's really like what you do is you just watch movies. So I've seen like, really slow Bellatar cinema. I've seen like crazy kind of out there experimental cinema. I've seen all sorts of different types of movies, and I feel like, I don't know, that doesn't make me better than anyone else, but it's like I really try to give everything a fair shot, and I just do not connect with just talking movies a whole lot.
Yeah.
Unless I love the dramas that come out of Hong Kong or Taiwan. I love those kind of slow cinema movies from those countries.
Yeah. They don't make bad movies over there, I swear.
No. Some good Asian cinema out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, what were we talking about?
I don't know. I'm trying to remember what the next thing after this was. We should have written it down.
Probably.
Yeah.
But movies. We like movies. We enjoy movies. I guess what a question for the both of us to put us on the spot.
Great.
What's been the best movie of the year? Because I know we agree on this. 2021 best movie.
It's a movie that has been in the waiting for a long time.
It's a movie that people,
a lot of anticipation around it.
People denied its existence for a long time too.
Yep. It's heroes are very well known. We've known them since childhood, one might say.
Yeah.
And of course, this movie we're talking about is without a doubt 3, 2, 1. The Elmo movie.
Oh.
Just kidding.
Elmo had a movie?
Just kidding. Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that movie for us. I mean, again, the hype of waiting years for it.
Yeah.
Was unmatched.
Well, the roller coaster of loving and really connecting with BVS, the Ultimate Edition.
We saw that movie so many times in theater.
Oh, yeah. Really connecting with that movie. The hype, the waiting hype from BVS to Justice League.
The trailer drop initially, that was insane.
I remember where I was when the first Comic-Con trailer dropped for Justice League. And I remember where because it was such a huge moment, because I was like, these are the kind of blockbusters that I love. And we get to the release, and it's like that stages of, I think we have different stories. If you talk to anyone who's in kind of the Snyder Cut kind of fandom or whatever, they all have this story of where their experience with the theatrical cut. But for me, it was really, I was in denial because, whenever a DC movie came out, it was just trashed and ripped apart immediately, no matter what. And so I was in defense mode. And so I was also in denial. And then I saw it I saw it twice. Opening
Justice
weekend.
League.
Justice League.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my, this isn't right. Something's wrong. I can feel it. This isn't Zack Snyder's normal style. Something's wrong. I think the studio might have done some. And then, of course, you go down the rabbit hole through the next few years. You're like, oh my gosh, there's actually this really sad story behind it and this messed up studio politics and whatnot. And then, that was, and then you go through that and be like, okay, I want this movie to come out. And then, the whole fight to get it and everything. I mean, I've never felt catharsis like that of finally seeing a movie. Like the wait was unimaginable.
You bought a new TV to watch that movie when it came out.
I did. I bought a new TV.
I helped you carry it from Costco.
Yeah, a new TV I bought, and I have...
That was an experience.
1, 2, 3. I have 3 copies of Justice League now sitting on my shelf.
Not the same copy, just so it makes more sense.
Yes,
listeners at home.
I have a UK Blu-ray. I have an US American 4K, and then I have the trilogy box set of Man of Steel, BVS, and Justice League.
Yeah. Just an unparalleled. I mean.
Okay, not to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
We're just talking about not the movie. I figure. What do we like about the movie? I guess
that's where I was about to go.
Okay,
that's
perfect.
Where I was about to go.
Perfect.
So like cultural significance aside.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, things we like about the movie: 4:3 aspect ratio.
Yes,
we are huge aspect ratio fans as a whole. We just, I mean, you kind of started that off in our filmmaking. I mean, we could thank your film professor for that.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't my film. That was Andrew Price.
Oh, Andrew.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was your professor. Thank you, Andrew, if you're listening. Good friend of the channel. Yeah, sorry.
We
4:3 aspect. We're big aspect ratio fans as a whole. We use it all. We use circles. We use squares. We use rectangles.
we change it within our movie
Yeah.
too. That's the big thing that not a
Yeah.
lot of people do. And not to say we're so amazing, but that's
No.
something we really enjoy and wish more movies
Why
did.
limit your canvas?
Yeah.
Especially in the world of digital.
And for
Where
the
it's so easy to change
and
it.
for Justice League, it was so fitting. And everybody said this by now, but again, the heroes are huge. They're big. Having the 4:3 aspect ratio makes you able to see their full body. So it's like really nice to see these kind of like larger than life heroes, like from head to toe, really.
Aspect ratio is making a comeback.
Yeah.
You haven't seen it yet. I talked to you before we started recording, but the Tragedy of Macbeth trailer, it's in 4:3.
Oh, nice. 4:3.
So 4:3 is popping up more and more, or just other more square aspect ratios.
When it's like, when was the last time you saw a blockbuster movie shot in 4:3?
It just doesn't happen that
Like
much.
the only thing I can think of is like the old full screen releases of DVDs.
Yeah.
I'm really struggling to think of like a blockbuster that was shot in 4:3. Yeah, and I'm not talking about like something like, Grand Budapest Hotel or like artsy farts like A24. I'm not talking about those.
Like
I'm talking about
blockbusters.
I'm talking about get your popcorn, go to the movies. It's got action and adventure, whatever.
It just doesn't happen.
Just doesn't happen. That was really cool. I really loved the kind of the character arcs throughout the movie. In many ways, they like mirrored Superman, and they kind of all were apart, and they all had their individual moments. Like, I don't know. I think we've been used to this standard way of doing team up superhero movies since like Avengers, which is cool and it's worked and everything. But this was a different way in terms of the character dynamics, because usually the way it goes is like the heroes get together, they can't get along, the bad guy ruins stuff, there's a big fight in the middle, then they realize that they have to work together, and then they team up, and then they defeat the bad guy. Like that,
Yeah.
that's like the formula for it, and there's nothing wrong with that because it's a formula for a reason. It works. But what I loved about this was each character had their own moment throughout, with Cyborg struggling with his disability or just who he is, and the Flash just kind of wanting to be seen. He wants to belong somewhere, and also that moment with his dad that he
has purpose that he's trying to build towards.
yes, not having purpose in life and building towards that. With Aquaman with this kind of family heritage stuff going on. Batman and Wonder Woman, like all their different dynamics. I loved how each character had their own moment throughout the movie to shine. And it wasn't simply just like the heroes get together, but they can't get along, and then they fight. Like that didn't happen. Like they were working together throughout, and it wasn't so much like we don't get together, now we get together. It was we're learning to get together throughout the movie.
Yeah.
And their mission wouldn't have been successful if you took out any one of them, because each of them had a really crucial role to play throughout the whole mission and everything.
Yeah. No, I love everything came down to very human circumstance that each character was stuck in.
Yeah.
There was nothing that was like stripping the supernatural, the bigger than life alien invasion, DC comic bookness of it. Like this movie would work as a human story just as well. And I think that's so cool. I think they just do it very effective. Not that other movies don't do that again. But I think it's just very effective in how all the characters are working. I just love that.
And very symbolic and mythological, like
That-
normal Snyder
That's
movies.
something that you and I are big fans of. We're
Yeah.
big on, like, oh gosh, I'm losing the word for it, so please help me.
Well, movies that are not literal.
Yeah.
Like again, going back to the, two people in a room talking, kind of thing. Like movies have such a unique visual potential for symbolism and metaphor. I mean, what I think a huge strength of Zack Snyder's Justice League movies, and like even something like George Lucas's Star Wars movies, is the visuals is where the subtext lies, and they are rich with symbolism and metaphors and meanings within the visuals of everything. Like I don't really I don't really like a movie in which someone sits in a room and talks about how upset and hurt they are. That can be engaging. That could be cool. But I'd much rather see like a movie like Justice League and it's Cyborg and his kind of, you got this kind of these visuals to represent a subtext stronger than just what's on the surface level. Mm-hmm. Like the dialogue to me isn't as important as just like, are you doing anything interesting with the visuals and the metaphors and the poetry of it all? And that's something that like movies, if the movie is to be read literally, it's less interesting to us. We like movies where it's like you watch it and there's one meaning, but then if you actually look at the symbols throughout the movie and like the metaphors and everything, like it has a whole new meaning on just the visuals alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that Snyder's movies have done that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, consistently. He's very good at it.
Like, okay, here's a better example for visual kind of stuff. Like, I'm not so much. We're not so much interested in someone like sitting down in a room talking about their depression. Mm-hmm. But if it was a horror movie in which the monster represented depression, that is more interesting to us because of how the visuals are at play. Mm-hmm. I think that kind of sums up our what we like a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, Justice League was awesome for those reasons. What else?
I mean,
the
I love
music,
the music, the structure. I love the chapters. I think that's just a fun way to break that movie up.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff within that of like, was it going to be released as a TV like 4-part HBO series? And there's so many questions within that. But regardless, how that is in the final movie, super cool.
Chapters were awesome.
Chapters are great. And you kind of see that again in last year. The Green Knight's got chapters. Mm-hmm. I don't know if anything else actually. Maybe it was just that, but
that was probably both of our second pick for movie of the year too.
You know what?
It was so funny because Justice League came out, I think, and then months and all these other movies kept coming out, and I was like, oh man, I think Justice League was probably the best movie of the year. And then the Green Knight came out, and I was like, ooh, that got the closest to it,
dangerously close.
Also, the visuals, the CGI was gorgeous.
Oh,
and it was done within like 11 months.
Steppenwolf is insane.
The movies, the visual for as little of visual effect, we know enough about visual effects to know that Justice League should not look as good as it did.
Yeah,
and it's incredible, like the work they did.
It's on par with anything else.
Yeah,
and insane.
better than a lot of stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Specifically those CG characters like the aliens and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Faces are incredible. Steppenwolf's his expressions are very good. His armor reads great.
Yeah,
having like a complex shape like that, and see, like the fact that he's a legible character and isn't like muddy.
Yeah,
insane. He looks so good. The scene that I'm like always impressed by, and it's the most mundane one, is the scene where he pulls the Atlanteans out of the ocean. It's overcast and gray. He's just on that muddy ground, like he's walking through puddles, and they're just showing all of it. Like, look at this flawless animation we've done.
Yeah,
just insane. I love all of that. That's probably one of my favorite scenes in terms of like how solid that movie is on like a technical CG level.
Yeah,
it's just all so good. Darkseid's incredible.
Well, the slow-mo stuff in particular looks really good. And I think it comes down to, I would assume, the lighting and the color grade they did on it. Because I think if you color graded it, I mean, even Snyder's shown stuff in like unfinished form, and we've seen versions of it in the theatrical, but I think it really pops in in his Zack Snyder's Justice League. Like the way it's all rendered and everything, like specific, like Wonder Woman, like hitting Steppenwolf's axe in slow mo.
Yeah,
Barry moving in slow mo. I mean, just a lot of that slow motion stuff just looks really gorgeous and well done.
Yeah, well, the slow motion really helps that movie. Again, you get to like just all the impacts you get to really sit with. It doesn't. You don't just lose everything in the action, but you like gives you moments in that, and it's so good.
And I kind of started to say this, but like the Superman stuff, how he was tied in. Superman's my favorite hero, and the way that each character mirrored was an aspect that Clark experienced in Man of Steel or BVS, You had like Cyborg feeling different and alien and alone. Same thing with Barry, but also like this guy who's like totally has all these powers and is always holding back. And then when he finally gets to like the moment when Superman punches Zod for the first time is kind of like a similar moment like to when Barry like runs through the Speed Force at the first time near the end of the movie. Wonder Woman just being like this awesome outsider. I mean, all of them like there's too much. I could ramble on. I'll be here for another few hours if we keep talking about it. But like, I love how Superman was used in the movie and how each of the characters kind of both externalized an aspect of Clark, but also were their own characters and had their own journeys in their own rights. And just, I miss that I love that in blockbuster movies when they do that. Like Lord of the Rings had a similar thing.
Yeah.
Those movies where each character had their kind of moment. I think it's kind of a shame when you have a huge ensemble of characters and like you focus on just one. I mean, obviously you have to focus on one, but give each character their little moment too, I think.
Bruce being that main in Justice League, he does not hog the screen from anyone else.
Because his journey happened in BVS.
Exactly.
Which kind of propels his arc in this one, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that all superhero movies need to be like this, but that's just what I really appreciated and connected with was it did feel a little bit different and new. And I would love to see some more of that kind of stuff in more superhero movies.
Maybe Justice League 2.
That'd
be really cool.
That'd be awesome. Oh my gosh, Shang-Chi.
Oh, yeah.
I love Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
I did not expect to love it. I thought I would like it. I didn't think I would love it. It was so good. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but that's another. I was really surprised with that movie as a whole. Yeah.
Pig was one that surprised me.
Oh yeah, Pig.
That was a movie that when watching it, I didn't know how to feel afterwards.
Yeah.
But it like lived in my head for like at least a month afterwards. Like
yeah.
And I want to go back and rewatch it at some point.
Pig was
there's
very
something about
good.
Nicolas Cage that just is different every time. It hits.
I
different.
love him. He's my favorite actor. I think we're one of my favorite actors.
Yeah, we're big Nicolas Cage fans.
Yeah.
Over here.
Mandy.
Mandy.
That's a movie we
phenomenal.
love. That's one of my favorites of all time. Another good example of like, you kind of can't look at that movie from, I don't know.
It's all subtext.
I feel like you could apply, like if you looked at it from different lenses, you could be like, oh, this movie failed to be a traditional movie with the proper character weaving, intricacies, screenplay. Like that stuff isn't important. Or like, I think it's definitely not for everybody, but I think what it is, we just love that kind of thing so much. Yeah.
So many movies.
We like movies. I guess, should we wrap up here?
Yeah, I was going to say, this is probably a good place to wrap up. I think we got plenty we can discuss next time.
So we need help.
Yeah.
I guess, in formatting this thing. If we could have some viewer interaction, I guess. Let us know, I guess, what kind of things we should talk about in this.
If you have specific questions too, I think that would be kind of interesting.
We could have a question. We could have
like
a question
Q&A section or something. We're very open. This podcast thing is super new to us, so it's not like we are coming into this with a clear direction.
Yeah.
Not that we don't, we couldn't figure something out, but obviously it's better if, y'all are getting the content you want to hear.
Yeah. So, and what we want to do is we just want to talk about movies for about an hour or so.
Yeah. This is probably going to be shorter on the shorter side of episodes in the future. But
we have a little bit of a time crunch today, but we would like to sit down. We'll talk for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I don't know.
4 hours.
I don't, depending on the movie or whatever we're talking about. So if you all are interested in us covering specific movies or genres or questions, like fun kind of film study questions, like, or even like more poppy questions, like what was the best movie of 2011? Those kind of stuff. Yeah. We can have those discussions or deeper discussions, like, I don't know, about different movie related stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. Any of it.
Yeah.
We're open.
Yeah.
So let us know. Hit the like button. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode. And thank you all so much for listening. Oh, wait.
We didn't reference. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
people
my
have been
goodness.
listening. We didn't reference. Okay. Please keep listening. Okay. So we released a feature film last Friday.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Casually.
We didn't even discuss that at all. Okay. So thank you for bearing with us. It's called Wild Boys, The Hunt for Sasquatch. If you have not checked it out, please check it out. It is our buddy Zach's first feature film he's ever made. We were producers on it. We're in it. A lot of fun. There will be behind the scenes content coming for us, coming from us about that movie.
Yeah.
So if you want to know more about the movie, or if you're wondering like, hey, where's the Sasquatch talk? It's coming. It's coming. There's going to be more of it. So subscribe, like, follow, comment, all that kind of stuff to stay in tune, or I forgot how to say it.
Stay in the loop.
Stay in the loop about both Sasquatch behind the scenes and this next episode of the podcast.
Yeah. Well, with all that being said, thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.